Hey guys, Spiero here, buying old fundamentals. Another multifamily Sunday. Um, Last week, if you remember, I looked at or tried to look at some multifamily stuff around Greenville, and there was a whole bunch of information missing, or rather, there wasn't a lot in the initial post that we found on LoopNet. So I sent out some requests for additional information, and lo and behold, I got some additional information. Now, because of the fact that in order to get that, I had to agree to confidentiality agreements, I won't be able to tell you which property specifically it's about. But what I found there was really, really interesting in the sense that a lot of it didn't make any sense, or rather the connection between the asking price and when I looked into some of the fundamentals of the supporting information there, the two didn't match, and I'll try and explain what I meant. So the one of the places I got the information on was a around about a 300 unit place where initially they claimed that 60 of the units were down. But when I dug a little further into the supporting documentation, I actually found out that on top of the 60 down, there were another 36 which they were categorizing as down, as well as another 3 to 4 units which were being used as model houses, model apartments, and offices. So, in fact, a third of their units were down. So 100 out of 300 units were down. The other thing I found, which is not a bad thing, I mean, that's actually a potential. There's a potential for a value play, assuming that you can get financing for all the rehab and you feel like doing it. Looking at the rent roll and the supporting information they brought, it also became very, very clear that their rents were a good 20 to 25% under market value. So all that's good because that's another opportunity to create value, and that's apparently how you make money in multifamily. But then what I did was look at their financials, especially their full 2016 financials, and once I got down to actuals, I found that the NOI for 16 was 272 thousand, which at a cap rate of 10.72, which is the cap rate which they advertised, would mean a value of a little over $2.5 million. Now, this place is being sold through auction with a minimum starting price of $3,750,000, which obviously doesn't match the actuals. Now, maybe they did a great job between 2016 and halfway through 17, which justifies this increase. So I also looked at the actuals, the rent rolls for and occupancy for July of 17, and in fact the rent rolls were down by 20,000 as compared to the average for 2016, which, using the cap rate, means that's another loss of value of 186,600. So now the actual value is down to 2,353,400. Anyway, to me this is very interesting. Although my technical underwriting for multifamily is still very, very basic, and I have a lot to learn. This is one of the first things that, if you pick up any book, they'll point out to you that you have to figure out. Well, that's how you figure out the value. So there's this big gap of almost $1.5 million between the minimum asking price and the true value of the property based on NOI before you even walk through and start deducting for all sorts of stuff that needs to get fixed. So I went to one of my Facebook groups on multifamily and asked two questions. One, what's the best way or what's a good resource for learning technical underwriting? And second, I explained this situation and asked, well, how do you deal with a broker who's selling who's pitching a dream as opposed to dealing with reality? Because in the end, you got to create a conversation with this guy in order to even be able to make an offer on the place and not get it thrown out on its ear. You have, at the very least, a $1.5 million gap to close. And I don't know enough about commercial real estate yet, how you go about closing that gap, because I don't know what the hell this guy told the owner of the place and what dreams he sold, and how do you help him down from this fantasy that he built. Or maybe I'm missing something, and the market is so full of people that don't do proper due diligence that he can market the place as if it's fully occupied at full market rents, rather than using the actuals to establish the value. Anyway, asking both of those questions, everything went really, really quiet on the forum all of a sudden. And basically the responses I got were, well, that's the secret sauce. That's what everybody's trying to figure out how to do. Underwriting, most people treat their underwriting as proprietary, and they've spent a lot of time and money building good models, so it's not as if someone's going to give them to you just like that. And as far as dealing with brokers and closing that expectation gap, that's sort of the squishy part of doing these kind of deals. And again, no one's just going to tell you how to do that. One, because a lot won't be able to, and second, because it's just something they do instinctively, and secondly, again, that's how they make their money. So it seems pretty clear that I've hit on something that's, or two things that are worth digging into, and until I figure out my magic sauce, I'll be more than happy to share what I find here. So pretty interesting developments as far as I'm concerned. I'll be looking at more multifamily deals going forward. If that's what you're interested in doing, it's really easy to get hold of the documentation and all that kind of stuff. Just go on LoopNet, find any deal, and then reach out to the broker and ask for his supporting documentation, and you can start getting into it and start practicing analyzing all this stuff, without which you're not going to get anywhere. So that's it for today. I'm Spiero. You've been watching Buy and Hold Fundamentals. We'll be back tomorrow, and I think we're doing Milwaukee. We're doing a week of a neighborhood out of Milwaukee the coming weeks, and probably during the weekend I'll look at some Milwaukee multifamily. So see you guys around.